The space station floated in the darkness between two dying stars. It was old and ugly, built from metal. Plates welded together by desperate hands. Pirates called it home, smugglers used it to hide, and those who had nowhere else to go came here to disappear. Commander Lily stood at the entrance of the docking bay and looked at the station with careful eyes. She was tall and thin, with skin that looked like pale moonlight. Her eyes were silver, and they saw things that other beings could not see. She was a Valoran, a member of a race that watched and studied other species across the galaxy. Her people did not fight wars. They observed, they recorded, they judged. Her ship had suffered damage near the asteroid belt. A small explosion in the engine room had forced her to find the nearest station for repairs. She did not like this place. It smelled of rust and fear and broken dreams, but she had no choice. The repair would take 6 hours. 6 long hours in this floating garbage heap. Lily walked through the crowded streets of the station. Aliens of every shape and size pushed past her. Some had scales, some had fur, some had too many eyes, and some had none at all. They all looked at her with hungry stares. Valorans were rare outside their home system. Some would pay good money to capture one. She kept her hand near her weapon and moved deeper into the station. That was when she heard the noise. It came from below, somewhere deep in the belly of the station. Cheering, screaming, the sound of a crowd going mad with excitement. Lily stopped walking and listened. Her silver eyes narrowed. She knew that sound. It was the sound of violence. She found a stairway leading down into the darkness. The smell grew worse as she descended. Blood and sweat and something else. Something primal. At the bottom of the stairs she found a large door guarded by 2 massive creatures with green skin and tusks growing from their jaws. They looked at her and grunted. Lily held up a small chip filled with credits. The guard stepped aside. The room beyond was larger than she expected. It was shaped like a bowl with seats rising up on all sides. In the center was a pit covered in sand. The sand was stained dark in many places, old blood from old fights. Hundreds of aliens filled the seats. They were shouting and throwing things and waving their fists in the air. Lily found an empty spot near the edge and sat down. She wanted to understand what was happening. A voice boomed through the room. It belonged to a fat creature sitting in a floating chair above the pit. He was the Pitum, the one who controlled the fights, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. He shouted, "Tonight we have something special, something rare, something stupid." The crowd laughed. In one corner we have Grok the Destroyer, undefeated champion of the Outer Rim, killer of 50 warriors, eater of bones. Door opened on one side of the pit. Massive creature walked out. It stood nearly 10 feet tall, with gray skin as thick as armor. Its arms were as big as tree trunks, and its hands could crush stone. It was a Gorak, one of the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They were built for one thing and one thing only: violence. The crowd cheered, and in the other corner the pitmaster continued, his voice dripping with amusement. "We have a human." The cheering stopped. Confusion spread through the crowd. Whispers filled the air. "A human herein a death pit." The second door opened. Man walked out. Lily leaned forward. Her seat. He was not tall. He was not wide. He had no armor, no scales, no claws. He wore simple pants and nothing else. His chest was bare, showing skin Covered in old scars, his hair was dark and cut short. His eyes were brown and calm like still water before a storm. The Pitum laughed. His name is Marcus. Cole, a former soldier from Earth. He says he wants to fight. I say he wants to die. The crowd roared with laughter. Lily did not laugh. She was watching the human with great interest. She had studied his species before. Humans were classified as Tier 4, which meant they were unremarkable. Average intelligence. Weak bodies, short lives. They were not special in any way. The galaxy had millions of species, and humans were somewhere in the middle of the list. So, why was this one standing in a death pit? Without any weapons, she pulled out her data recorder and began to take notes. Marcus stood in the center of the pit and looked at his opponent. The Gorak was 3 times his size. It could kill him with one blow. Everyone in the room knew this. The human knew this too. But he did not run. He did not beg. He simply stood there and waited. The Gorak beat its chest and roared. The sound shook the walls. It was trying to scare the human to make him submit before the fight even began. Marcus did not move. He did not blink. He just watched. Lily felt something strange in her chest, feeling she could not name. This human was going to die. That was certain, but there was something in his eyes that made her want to keep watching, something that did not make sense. The Pitum raised his hand. Fighters ready. The Gorak roared again. Marcus nodded once, then let the fight begin. A bell rang out across the arena. The sound echoed off the walls and faded into silence. For a moment nothing happened. The Gorak and the human stood facing each other across the bloody sand. The crowd held its breath. Then the Gorak charged. It moved faster than something that big should be able to move. Its feet pounded against the ground like thunder. Its fists rose into the air, ready to smash the human into paste. Lily gripped the edge of her seat. This was it. This was the end. But Marcus smiled, and then he moved. Gorak's fist came down like a hammer, falling from the sky. It should have crushed Marcus into the sand. It should have ended the fight in one blow. That was what everyone expected. That was what always happened when a small creature faced a Gorak. But Marcus was not there. He had moved to the side at the last possible moment. His body twisted like smoke in the wind. The Gorak's fist hit nothing but sand, sending a cloud of dust into the air. The creature stumbled forward, confused by its own power. The crowd gasped. Lily stopped breathing. Her silver eyes were wide open, trying to understand what she had just seen. The human had not run away. He had not jumped back in fear. He had simply moved just enough to avoid the attack. Not an inch more, not an inch less. It was perfect. Marcus did not wait for the Gorak to recover. His right hand shot forward and struck the creature's throat. It was a small hit from a small fist, but he had aimed for a spot where the gray skin was thin. The Gorak made a choking sound and grabbed at its neck. The crowd went silent. This was not possible. Humans were weak. Humans were prey. They did not hurt Goraks. They became food for Goraks. Marcus moved again. He circled around the creature like a wolf circling a wounded animal. His feet barely touched the sand. His eyes never left his enemy. He was watching, waiting, thinking. Lily understood something in that moment. This human was not fighting with strength. He could not win a contest of power against Agorak. No human could, so he was fighting with Something else, something she had not seen before. He was fighting with his mind. The Gorak recovered and swung its arm in a wide arc. It was trying to catch Marcus, to grab him and squeeze until his bones broke, but Marcus ducked under the swing and drove his elbow into the creature's knee. The joint bent in a way it was not supposed to bend. Gorak howled in pain and dropped to one leg. The crowd began to murmur. They were starting to realize that something strange was happening. This was not a normal fight. This was not a quick death. For the weak human, this was something else entirely. Marcus kept attacking. Every hit was small, but every hit was placed perfectly. He struck the Gorak's eyes, making it hard for the creature to see. He hit the soft spots under its arms. He kicked the back of its legs, making it stumble and fall. He was taking the monster apart piece by piece. Lily raised her data recorder and spoke quietly into it. Human specimen, displaying advanced combat ability. Movements suggest extensive training and experience. He is not relying on physical power. He is using knowledge of anatomy and precise timing. This contradicts all existing data on human combat abilities. She paused and watched as Marcus dodged another wild swing. Recommend immediate review of human species classification, current tier 4. Rating may be incorrect. The Gorak was getting angry now. It roared so loud that the walls shook. It stopped trying to grab the human and started trying to kill him with pure force. Its fists flew through the air like cannonballs. Each hit could have destroyed a wall. Each hit could have ended a life, but each hit missed. Marcus flowed around the attacks like water flowing around rocks. He never stopped moving, never stopped watching. Every time the Gorak attacked, he found a way to avoid it and strike back. Punch to the throat, an elbow to the eye, a kick to the knee. The creature was bleeding now. Green blood dripped from a dozen small wounds. None of them were serious by themselves, but together they were wearing the monster down. The crowd was on its feet. They were not laughing anymore. They were not cheering for the Gorak. They were watching in silence, their mouths hanging open. They had come to see a quick death. Instead, they were watching something they could not explain. A human was winning. Lily felt her heart beating fast in her chest. She had lived for over 200 years. She had watched battles on 100 different worlds. She had seen warriors with claws that could cut through metal. She had seen soldiers with armor grown into their skin. She had seen the best fighters the galaxy had to offer, but she had never seen anything like this. This human was not stronger than his enemy. He was not faster. He did not have any special abilities or weapons. He was just a man made of soft skin and breakable bones, but he refused to fight the way the galaxy expected him to fight. He made his own rules. The Gorak swung again, putting all of its remaining strength into one final blow. It was desperate now, angry and hurt and confused. It did not understand how this was happening. It did not understand how a creature so small could cause it so much pain. Marcus saw the attack coming. He stepped to the side, grabbed the Gorak's arm, and used its own power against it. The creature flew through the air and crashed into the wall of the pit. The impact shook the entire arena. For a moment, everything was still. Then the Gorak pushed itself up from the ground. It was hurt badly now. One of its eyes was swollen shut. Its leg could barely hold its weight. Green blood covered its Gray skin, but it was not done. It would not submit. It would not accept defeat. At the hands of a human, it charged one more time. Marcus stood his ground and waited. His body was calm. His eyes were cold. He knew what was coming, and he was ready. The Gorak raised its fist for one last attack, and that was when everything changed. The Gorak's fist finally connected. Marcus had dodged 100 red attacks that night. He had moved like a ghost, slipping through the spaces between violent, but even ghosts make mistakes, even the best fighter. The galaxy cannot avoid everything forever. The backhand caught him across the chest. It was not a direct hit. If it had been, he would have died instantly, but even a glancing blow from a Gorak was enough to send a human flying across the arena like a broken doll. Marcus hit the wall hard. The sound was terrible, bones cracking, breath escaping, hope dying. He slid down to the sand and did not move. Crowd exploded with noise. They jumped to their feet and screamed with joy. This was what they had come to see. This was what they had paid for. The natural order had been restored. The weak had fallen. The strong had won. The Gorak beat its chest and roared in victory. It had been hurt tonight. It had been embarrassed, but in the end the result was the same as always. The human was broken on the ground, and the monster was standing tall. The pitmaster floated down in his chair, a wide smile on his fat face. And there we have it, folks. The human tried, he really did, but nature cannot be denied. The strong will always crush the weak. That is the law of the universe. Lily sat frozen in her seat. Her silver eyes were fixed on the human lying in the sand. She did not know why she cared. She had watched many creatures die in her long life. Death was a natural part of the universe. It was nothing special. It was nothing to feel sad about, but she felt something, a heaviness in her chest that she could not explain. Then Marcus moved. It was small at first, just a twitch of his fingers in the sand. Then his hand pressed against the ground. Then his arm straightened. Slowly, painfully, impossibly, he began to push himself up. The crowd went quiet. The Pitum stopped talking. The Gorak turned around and stared. Marcus rose to his feet. His left arm hung at his side, clearly broken. Blood ran down his face from a cut on his forehead. His breathing was rough and wet, the sound of cracked ribs scraping against each other with every breath. His body was destroyed, but he was standing. Lily leaned forward, her mouth slightly open. She had seen creatures survive terrible injuries before. The galaxy was full of species with amazing healing abilities, but humans did not have such gifts. They were fragile. They broke easily and healed slowly. What she was seeing should not be possible. Marcus lifted his head and looked at the Gorak. Then he did something that made no sense at all. He smiled. "That all you got?" he said. His voice was rough and broken, but his words were clear. He spat blood onto the sand and raised his one good fist. "Come on, I'm not done yet." Arena fell completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. They were all staring at the human like he was a creature from another dimension, because in that moment he was something they had never seen before. He was a being that refused to accept reality. The Gorak hesitated. For the first time in its life, it felt something it had never felt before. It was not fear exactly. It was confusion. It had broken this human. It had shattered his bones and torn his flesh. The fight was over. The human should have stayed down. That was how the universe worked. But the human had not. Read the rules of the universe. Marcus charged. He ran at the Gorok with his broken body, his one good arm swinging. With everything he had left, there was no technique now, no careful dodging, no precise strikes. This was something else. This was pure raw human stubbornness. His fist connected with the Gorak's face, then again and again. Each hit sent pain shooting through his broken body. Each hit brought him closer to death, but he did not stop. He could not stop. He would not stop. The Gorok tried to fight back, but it was confused and hurt and facing something it did not understand. Its attacks were slow and clumsy. Marcus took the hits that landed and kept going. Blood flew from his mouth. His legs shook. His vision blurred, but his fist kept swinging. The crowd was screaming now, but not with joy or excitement. They were screaming because they did not know what else to do. They were watching something impossible. They were watching a dead man win a fight. Marcus grabbed the Gorak's head with both hands, ignoring the screaming pain in his broken arm. He pulled the creature's face down while bringing his knee up. The impact shattered the Gorak's nose. Green blood sprayed across the sand. Monster stumbled backward, barely able to stand. Marcus did not give it time to recover. He jumped onto the Gorak's back, wrapping his good arm around its throat. He squeezed with every bit of strength he had left. His muscles burned. His vision went dark at the edges. His heart felt like it was going to explode, but he did not let go. The Gorak thrashed and twisted, trying to throw him off. It slammed its back against the wall, crushing Marcus between stone and flesh. He felt more bones break. He felt blood filling his lungs. He felt death reaching out its cold hands. He squeezed harder. 1 minute passed, then 2. Then 3. The Gorak's movements grew slower. Its roars became whispers. Its mighty arms fell to its sides, and then it collapsed. Marcus fell with it, landing hard on the sand next to his fallen enemy. He lay there staring up at the ceiling, his chest barely moving. He was broken in 100 places. He should have been dead, but he was alive. And he had won. The arena was completely silent. No one knew what to say. No one knew what they had just witnessed. Lily whispered into the darkness, so quiet that no one else could hear, "I wish he was mine." The medical bay was small and dirty like everything else on the station. The walls were covered with stains that Lily did not want to think about. The equipment looked old and poorly maintained. It was not the kind of place where anyone should receive medical care, but it was the only option available. Marcus lay on a metal table in the center of the room. His eyes were closed and his breathing was slow and steady. A human woman stood beside him, her hands moving quickly as she worked on his wounds. She had brown hair tied back in a messy knot and tired eyes that had seen too much suffering. Her name was Rachel, and she was the only doctor on the station. Lily stood in the doorway and watched. She had followed them here after the fight, staying in the shadows where no one would notice her. She did not know why she had done this. Valorans were supposed to observe from a distance. They were not supposed to get involved. They were not supposed to care, but she could not make herself leave. Rachel finished wrapping a bandage around Marcus' chest and stepped back with a heavy sigh. 4 broken ribs, she said. To no one in particular. A fractured arm, internal bleeding that I barely managed to stop. bruised organs a mild concussion. She shook her head slowly. You should be dead, Marcus, you know. That right? Marcus opened his eyes and smiled weakly. You say that every time. Because it's true every time. Rachel threw a bloody towel into a bin across the room. One of these days your luck is going to run out and I won't be able to put you back together. Then I'll find another doctor. There is no other doctor, you idiot. Not out here, not for people like us. Marcus closed his eyes. Again, then I guess I'll have to be more careful. Rachel laughed, but there was no joy in the sound. You don't know the meaning of the word. Lily stepped into the room. Her footsteps made no sound, but both humans turned to look at her. Anyway, Rachel's hand moved toward a weapon hidden under her coat. Marcus simply watched with calm, curious eyes. You should be dead, Lily said. Marcus looked at her for a long moment, then he nodded slowly. Heard that before. Lily walked closer to the table where he lay. She studied him carefully, the way she had studied thousands of species over her long life, but this was different. This time she was not just collecting data, she was trying to understand something that her data could not explain. I have observed 47 species across this galaxy, she said. I have watched the Kree tear apart warships with their bare hands. I have seen talons move faster than the eye can follow. I have documented the greatest warriors the universe has to offer. She paused, her silver eyes meeting his brown ones. None of them fight like you do. Marcus tried to shrug, but the movement made him WSC with pain. Humans don't have much choice. No claws, no armor, no natural weapons. If we want to survive, we have to think, we have to adapt. We have to be willing to do whatever it takes. That is not in any of our records, Lily said. Your species is classified as Tier 4, unremarkable. Average, not worth studying in detail. Classifications can be wrong, Rachel snorted from across the room. He's also stubborn as hell. I've known him for 3 years and I've never seen him quit at anything, even when quitting would be the smart thing to do. Lily tilted her head, considering this information. Your species has a short lifespan, less than 100 years for most of you. Why would you risk what little time you have in a fighting pit? Marcus was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer than before. Because some things are worth risking everything for, even if you might lose. What things? He looked at her with those calm, deep eyes. Depends on the person. For some it's money, for others it's fame. For me, he paused and stared at the ceiling. I guess I just need to know that I'm still alive, that I can still fight, that I haven't given up yet. Lily did not fully understand his words, but she felt their weight. This human was not fighting for survival. He was fighting for something deeper, something that lived inside his soul. It was irrational. It was dangerous. It was completely against everything she had been taught about how intelligent beings should behave, and yet she could not look away from him. Your species was classified as unremarkable, she said again, but I do not think that word applies to you. Marcus smiled. It was a tired smile, full of pain and exhaustion, but there was warmth in it, too. Maybe we're all a little more remarkable than the universe gives us credit for. Lily stood there in silence, processing what she had seen and heard. Her entire understanding of humans had been built on centuries of data, cold numbers, and careful observations. But data could not capture what she had Witnessed tonight, data could not explain the fire she saw in this human's eyes. She made a decision in that moment, a decision that went against all of her training and all of her instincts. I would like to learn more, she said, about you, about your species, about why you fight the way you do. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You want to study me? I want to understand you. Rachel stepped forward, her hand still near her weapon. And why should he trust you? We don't know anything about you. Lily looked at the human woman and then back at Marcus. You should not trust me. You have no reason to, but I am asking anyway. Marcus studied her face for a long time. Then slowly he nodded. Okay, he said. But you're buying dinner first. That fight worked up an appetite. Lily felt something strange happen to her face. It took her a moment to realize that she was smiling. I believe I can accept those terms. 3 months had passed since the night in the arena. Lily sat alone in her ship, staring at the document on her screen. It was the most important report she had ever written. It would change how the entire galaxy saw an entire species. It would rewrite history, and she was afraid to send it. Through the window of her ship, she could see Marcus working on the exterior hull. He was wearing a simple spacesuit and carrying tools that looked too heavy for his still healing body. Rachel had told him to rest for at least 6 more months. He had lasted 2 weeks before he started looking for things to fix. That was just who he was. Lily had spent the past 3 months traveling with him across the outer rim. She had watched him take odd jobs on mining stations and cargo ships. She had seen him help strangers for no reason other than they needed help. She had observed him laugh with friends and cry alone when he thought no one was watching. She had learned more about humans in 3 months than the Valoran Observation Corps had learned in 3 centuries. The report on her screen was the result of all that learning. Every word had been chosen carefully. Every conclusion had been supported by evidence. It was perfect in every way. But sending it would change everything. Lily took a deep breath and began to read the document one more time. The report started with basic information. Species name, home planet, physical characteristics. These parts were easy. They matched the existing records with only minor updates. Humans were still soft, still fragile, still short-lived, but the next section was different. Previous classifications had labeled humans as average in intelligence. The report argued that this was wrong. Humans did not think the way other species thought. They did not follow logical paths to logical conclusions. Instead, they made strange leaps of intuition. They connected ideas that should not be connected. They found solutions that no one else would have considered. This was not average intelligence. This was something else entirely. The report continued with observations about human physical abilities. Yes, they were weak compared to most species. Yes, they broke easily and healed slowly, but they had developed something to compensate for these weaknesses. They called it endurance. Humans could keep going long after other species had collapsed from exhaustion. They could push through pain that would disable Gorek. They could survive injuries that would kill a Talon. Their bodies were fragile, but their will was not. The next section discussed human social behavior. This was the part that had surprised Lily the most. Humans formed bonds with each other that went beyond simple survival instincts. They called these bonds Friendship and love, they would sacrifice their own lives for beings they cared about. They would fight against impossible odds to protect their families. They would die for abstract ideas like honor and loyalty. This made no logical sense from an evolutionary standpoint. Such behavior should have been eliminated long ago. But as it had not been eliminated, it had grown stronger over thousands of years. Because humans were not purely logical creatures, they were something more complicated, something more dangerous. The final section of the report contained Lily's main conclusion. She had rewritten it a dozen times, trying to find the right words. In the end, she had kept it simple. Previous classification Tier 4 unremarkable. Recommended new classification Tier 1 apex adaptive predator. She knew how the council would react when they read those words. They would think she had made a mistake. They would think she had been fooled or manipulated. How could humans, those soft pink creatures from an unremarkable planet, be classified alongside the most dangerous species in the galaxy? But Lily had seen the truth with her own eyes. Humans were not dangerous because of what they were. They were dangerous because of what they could become, given enough time, given enough pressure, given enough reason to fight. Humans would find a way to win. They would adapt. They would evolve. They would not stop. Other species feared death. Humans faced it and kept moving forward. Other species accepted their limitations. Humans refused to believe they had any. Other species fought to survive. Humans fought to prove that the universe could not break them. That was what made them special. That was what made them terrifying. Lily finished reading the report and sat back in her chair. Her finger hovered over the send button. Once she pressed it, there would be no going back. Her relationship with the council would never be the same. Her career might be destroyed. Her entire life might change. She looked out the window at Marcus. He had finished his work on the hull and was floating back toward the airlock. Even from here, she could see the smile on his face. He loved being in space. He loved the silence and the stars and the endless possibilities. He caught her watching and waved. She waved back. In that moment, Lily realized something important. She was not afraid of what would happen. After she sent the report, she was afraid of what would happen if she did not send it. The galaxy needed to know the truth about humans. They needed to understand that these soft, fragile, short-lived creatures were not to be underestimated, because one day humans would spread across the stars. They would build empires and forge alliances and change the course of galactic history. And when that day came, everyone would wish they had paid more attention. Lily pressed the send button. Then she stood up and walked toward the airlock to meet Marcus. He was waiting for her with that warm smile that made her feel things she did not fully understand. Report finished? He asked. Yes, she said. I told them everything. Everything. She looked into his brown eyes and felt her heart beat faster. Almost everything. There were some things she was not ready to share with the council, some things that were not meant for official reports, some things that belonged only to her, like the way she felt when he smiled at her, like the hope she felt for their future together, like the words she had whispered in the arena 3 months ago. I wish he was mine. She had not told him yet, but she would soon. For now, she simply walked beside him into the ship, ready for whatever adventure came next. The universe was vast and full of wonders. And for the first time in her 200 years of life, Lily was excited to explore it not as an observer but as something